Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and I'm looking this morning at the Green Book 2011, sometimes known as the Civil Court Practice 2011, and what we older people know as the Old County Court Practice. I used this when I was a student, and it's been with me for a very long time. It's my favourite, so I'm biased. It's actually edited in chief by Lord Neuberger. The consulting editor is Lord Justice Moore-Bick, and the general editors remain as PKJ Thompson and Louise de Mambro. It's an excellent book. The review is on Flickr and the web. It's a detailed review. As you see, it's the 2 volumes which we still have. Very useful shading at the sides for the CPR there. This is volume 1, and then the various other bits and pieces that we want with practice directions at the back. 2, of course, has the legislation. And we've got, in addition to that, now 2 other paperbacks, the procedural tables and the forms, both of which are very important, and of course there is the CD. The forms are particularly useful because they cover everything, and when you're looking for that sort of information, you can look at the web, and the court service website is changing at the moment with the cuts, so that this hard copy is extremely helpful. Now, this is a long review because there's a lot to cover with this particular book, but we've said as a title, be you practitioner, judge or litigant in person, you'll need the Green Book now to tackle the incoming tide. The reason being that when they were writing the preface, the authors said they actually start off by using the phrase the incoming tide, because there's just so much of this stuff and you really have to wade through it. I got used to this as a student, as I say, so I'm actually tend to move towards the Green Book rather than the White Book, although I know now that they use Blackstone as well, which of course is useful. That's the red book there for the civil practice and the blue one for the criminal. What we're saying is this, though, we didn't quite realise before, but the aim of the Green Book, steeped as it is in procedural history, going back to the old county court practice, is, in the words of the editors, to provide a handbook that is suitable for DIY as well as legal practice, hence the strict adherence to the principles of simplicity and ease of use inherent in the layout of what is now an indispensable and 4-volume work plus CD. What has always been considered a required reference for practitioners as well as judges can now also be used by litigants in person who are tending to appear much more regularly in the courts. I'm certainly finding that when they're on the other side, and it takes a lot longer. There's a veritable army of them out there now, of course, growing in response, of course, to the erosion of legal aid availability and so on. Now, these venerable and authoritative 2 volumes have come by us to be regarded so highly that the separate paperback forms sometimes can be ignored, but the paperback versions as well are quite useful. It's a heavy amount of stuff to carry around, but as long as you know where you're looking, you're fine, because it'll give you a lot of confidence when you're in court. It's indicative of the work's logical layout and plain speaking, and it's the actual plain English approach that I like more than anything else, because I think it helps everybody. As the editors point out, the work functions as a guide to the bringing, defending and appealing of proceedings on all 3 litigation tracks, and is an indispensable source of reference for all practitioners and members of the judiciary, whether in the High Court or County Court. Certainly the objectives of providing comprehensive guidance in as clear a way as possible has been amply achieved in the latest edition. So thank you to both Butterworths and LexisNexis and the substantial team of people listed here who are actually involved in this as the editorial board. We often forget them, and they do a huge amount of work. As I say, it's in the 2 volumes plus the 2 paperbacks and the CD. And there is an especially useful section here on developments since October 2010, which is the reissue of the civil court practice at that time. So obviously things have been amalgamated. An impressive feature of the Green Book remains the ease with which you can look things up. I certainly found it quite helpful, comparatively speaking. I do accept, and I'm sure laymen will recognise this, that we have our own little terminology and it's very confusing initially, but once you get into the swing of it, it's okay. The full set therefore includes the 2 the two main volumes, the two paperbacks and the CD, and obviously in that you've got the CPR, you've got the legislation, the relevant legislation. So for 2011, here is, in our view, a comprehensive guidance statement of what the practice is that we have in the courts. And, as if that were not enough, the CD is particularly relevant today for those who use the computer, and most of us do. You can download things, and it's again extremely useful, because this is heavy, and lugging this around is no joke. The law is stated as at March 2011, and there's one tip for all: read the how to use section right at the beginning, because I feel that that is a very, very useful way of actually understanding how you use this book, because it says how to use. If I'd known that before, it would have made life a lot easier, because it actually sets out exactly what you'd be looking for. That is the tip for all litigants in person and people like me practicing, and not, again, probably think, oh, I know where it all is. Well, you don't until you've actually used that. So do the how to use section, look at it in detail. Thank you so much, because I think that it will explain the incoming tide to you. We wish we'd done that, of course, some years ago when we started with this, but thank you to all concerned. It's an excellent publication and remains top of my list. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.